Okay, I'm just gonna see how we're doing here. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Waiting to see my stream come up here, guys, the live stream. Are you there? We're doing here. Okay, sorry, I'm just checking everything, making sure we're good. I'm also going to start the record button on my podcast because I'm recording this on audio as well. This is going to be the audio portion, at least, is going to be used as part of my podcast going forward. So anyway, let me make sure I'm streaming okay, make sure everything's going well. The health says it's good, the health of the stream. Let me know in the comments, guys. I've got the chat window open. So by all means, let me know that. Oh, good. You guys are showing up. Excellent. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started then. So, but while I'm got a couple of minutes here before I get to the meat of today's Deep Astronomy Live podcast, but I have a couple things I want to let you guys know that's coming up on this channel that you might find interesting. Now, as you've already heard me say, I'm broadcasting this on YouTube, but I'm also recording the audio of it, which is why I've got this big honking microphone in my face, because I'm going to record the audio portion, and I'm starting a podcast. It's going to be going live here, hopefully, in sometime later in February. Also, I have a Deep Astronomy app coming up, probably in mid-February. Now, it's not going to be anything fancy, but the app is going to be part of this one of these download apps, DWLD apps. And what they've done is they've contacted me and they've said, look, if you want to have your content distributed over an app, then sign up for this thing. And I've done that, and I've arranged the app, and it should be going live sometime around Valentine's Day. So I want to let you guys know that's coming down the pike as well. And that'll be an easy way for you to just get all of the content that I make from your mobile device, from your tablet or your cell phone. And you don't have to worry about subscribing or any of that other stuff, although I would still like it if you would do that. So turn the background volume lower. Okay. Is it too high? How's that? Is that better? There's an echo. Sometime around Valentine's Day, so I want to let you guys know that's coming down. Oh, yes, sorry. And that'll be an easy way for you to just get all of the content that I make from your mobile device. Okay. How's that? Is that echo gone? Yeah, it's gone now. That's what I get for taking off the headphones. Sorry, guys. I had that going. I apologize. Luckily, that is gone now. Let me just double check. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Okay. See, all you guys that tune in live get all the setup problems too. Okay, well, it's just me doing it. Okay, so it should be done. That secondary audio, what it was about is I had the live hangout going on a tab in my browser, and the audio was turned on. So that was, you were hearing the delay of me doing it. So that's what that was. Sorry about that, folks. I should have remembered to turn that off. That's a big mistake I make during the hangout. So let's start again, okay? Okay, good. It says it's really good. Sorry about that. Let's start one more time. All right. Hello, space fans, and welcome to my live Deep Astronomy Live Hangout. This is my attempt at sort of reaching out to some of the subscribers and having discussions on various topics with my YouTube audience, but at the same time, I'm going to be recording the audio part of it, which is why I have this big microphone in my face. So I'm starting a podcast, and that'll be starting sometime in early or mid-February. Lots of things coming down the pike for Deep Astronomy because this is now my full-time job. Another thing that we're doing is I've started another podcast with Dr. Carol Christian from the Hubble Hangouts. It's called This Week in Space Telescopes. That's an audio podcast. We finished the first episode, and I am getting ready to put it up on SoundCloud. All of these will be on SoundCloud, by the way, and iTunes, so you can find out about them. And I'm also getting a Deep Astronomy app where you can... Good. The comments are coming in great, and you can hear me fine. Good. Yeah, you got in just in time, Charlie London, because I had an echo there. So I've got also sometime in mid-February, I'm getting a Deep Astronomy app that will allow you to get access. It'll be free, and you can get all the content that I put out on YouTube, as well as all of our podcasts and things like that that I'm producing now on your mobile device, on your tablet and or smartphone, and that'll be free coming out later on this month. Also going to be doing the more of these Deep Astronomy Live podcast for you on YouTube, but I guess what I'd like to know is feedback from you in the comment section or either on Twitter. Let me do a thing here that I can do. Hold on, let me look and see if I can find, there it is. Look what I can do. So here is my lower third. And so that's my Twitter handle, Deep Astronomy. Let me know on Twitter, because what I would like to know is, what is a good time to have these? Right now I know it's 3 o'clock on the East Coast in the United States. I'm currently in the UK right now. I'm here for a few months because of family reasons, and so it's 8 o'clock where I'm at, and so it's late for me, but it's middle of the day. But I'd like to know when you would like to see these. What would be a good time of day? I'm going to get to the comment about the Great Filter. We're going to pick up that in just a minute. Christian Camacho, and I just want to get a couple of things out of the way first. The final little announcement I want to ask you guys to do for me, if you're interested in finding out when live events are occurring as well as when Hubble Hangouts are occurring, is go to my Deep Astronomy page on Facebook. It's facebook.com/deepastronomy and /events. And if you subscribe to the events, you will be notified via Facebook when the next one is. So that's a good way to do it. All right, so let's get to this week's podcast. It's an extension of, It's an extension of a discussion we had 2 weeks ago about the Great Filter, and what I had titled the podcast was "Why I Hope We Don't Find Life on Mars." And it was very well viewed. I was surprised at the interaction. You guys really had some great connections here, and so it was such an engaging commentary going on in the other video section that I decided I'd do some follow-up to kind of respond to some of the things I didn't have time to respond to before. And so first, let me start off with what a great filter is. And I want to start, what I've done is I've highlighted many of your comments, and I will try and get to them in the biggest way that I can, but I want to respond, first of all, to John Smith, who commented a few weeks ago, and he says, you make it sound as if these are all your ideas. FYI, economist Robert Hansen was the first to come up with the idea of the Great Filter. Also, your hoping we don't find anything on Mars has been put forth in various astronomy and cosmology books. You can at least make reference to where you got your ideas from, and in all caps, very unprofessional. Look, and so my response to that is, look, I know none of these ideas are new. None of these ideas are mine. None of my ideas are original. And in fact, there are links right here in the description box of further reading. One of them, it has to do with many, and all of them are where I got my research from, my ideas from. And it also comes from talking with a lot of my colleagues over the years as well. Now, I haven't talked with any economists about this, but I have talked with astronomers and cosmologists. So, John Smith, you are correct. These are not new ideas. They are not my ideas. And I have referenced them, and I did this in the last video too, with links for further reading on where you can go to find out more about what we're going to be talking about today. So that's the first comment I wanted to respond to. Okay, so the Great Filter. I don't want to go in, I'm not going to summarize everything we talked about last week, but the basic idea is this. And it's actually very simple. The galaxy that we live in, the Milky Way galaxy, is on order of 10 billion years old. There are hundreds of billions of stars in our galaxy alone. And with the data from Kepler, we've learned that there are at least 1.6 planets on average around every star in our galaxy, meaning that there are roughly 1.5 to 2 times more planets in the sky than there are stars. Now, The idea that the galaxy, 10 billion years, folks, is a really, really long time. I don't think, and most of the comments I got back, I don't think really appreciated just how long 10 billion years is. Furthermore, hundreds of billions of stars is a lot of stars. And so the great filter is this idea that if we start with the assumption that we haven't seen any intelligent life or civilizations out in our galaxy, no signs of it whatsoever. And why not? Because the galaxy's been around a really, really long time. Stars in the galaxy have been in a really, really long time, and there are so many stars and planets out there that surely there would be something out there. And so, but there's nothing here. And so why is that? And and that's the basics of the problem, and it's oversimplified for many reasons, but even if you get it more complicated, you don't need to drill down that much to make it that it doesn't need to be more complicated than that, to be honest. So your comments from the last time, I categorized most of what the bins that they mostly fall under, and they were things like this. Most of you, there were comments that said, well, there should be multiple filters. Maybe there are filters ahead of us and behind us. Okay, fair enough. Oh, and I never did define what a great filter was. So a great filter is this idea that if we haven't seen anything yet, then something must be filtering out. Something must be silencing these advanced civilizations from ever forming. And so the question becomes, where is this filter? The fact that we haven't seen anything yet, after 10 billion years, folks, is troublesome. It's problematic. We should have seen something by now if life does anything remotely like what we think it does here on Earth. I admit there are assumptions galore going on in this argument. I get that. But even at its most basic level, we should have seen something. You strip away all the assumptions, and we should have seen something. And so the fact that we haven't implies a great filter. And this great filter could have been something like in our past. And we talked about this last time. It could be something like life itself is hard to begin, from having no life to life. And I got criticized for butchering biology. And my apologies to all biologists out there. I don't know it, and I do oversimplify it, and I probably do not do it justice. So I give you my apologies in advance on that. And so that's one idea. Another idea is that the great filter is ahead of us still. It is something that advanced civilizations, once they do establish themselves, must run up against. And it must be more or less universal and total, because civilizations they just don't seem to get past it. And so while I was hoping that we wouldn't find life on Mars, and the basic principle for a lot of astronomers feeling this way as well, not just me, is that if we do find life on Mars, that means that there are two, and it's independent, actually began on Mars and didn't come from Earth or some other planet, and it did start independently on Mars. That's actually bad news for us, because it means that life is pretty easy to start from nothing, because we've got two instances of it in our own backyard. We've gone from, in just our solar system alone, 2 planets have gone from having no life to having life. So that means it's probably pretty common and therefore pretty easy to start life. So that would be an argument against the great filter. And that was the basic reason why I was hoping we wouldn't find life on Mars, because that means that the great filter is still ahead of us. We have yet to face it. And we got to find out what that is. We don't know. And I hypothesize what several of them would be. So that's the great filter. And that's a summary of what we talked about a little bit last week. But the comments that you guys gave me fell into several categories. One of them was that there were multiple filters. That means there was filters both ahead and behind. Of course, nothing precludes that in what I was arguing last week. There may be more than one filter. Another one might be that we've only been looking for like 100 years or so. We just haven't had enough time to find anything. There hasn't been enough time to, we haven't been looking long enough. That was one. And another category was, we're only looking for very specific signals. We're being too anthropomorphic in our thinking. We're thinking only of things that we can relate to, like radio signals or laser signals or anything like that. That was another category of things. And then another category of comments was, well, they are here. They're already here, but they're keeping quiet. We're in some kind of prime directive zoo-like conditions where we're being watched, but we're not being allowed to be interfered with. And that was another argument or another category of comments. And finally, another ones were, you know what? Aliens are just chilling. That was an actual comment. Aliens are chilling and they don't care to explore the galaxy or leave their homeworld. They're just not curious. That was another category. And then I was assuming that that they just wouldn't care about going around the galaxy. So I'd like to respond to some of these comments. Basically, and then I'm going to start, though, with Brett Flowers, who commented last week. And here's what I'm going to read what he wrote. He says, "It seems like the height of arrogance to assume that just because we haven't found evidence for life yet, that we are unlikely to ever find it. Hell, we haven't even had the proper tools needed to search for intelligent life until the later half of the 20th century. In addition, what does it matter if we overcome some earlier great filter? Perhaps every form of life has to survive hundreds or thousands of different filters until they become something like a type 2 civilization, where the extinction of the species becomes nigh impossible." And I'll get to what a type 2 is in just a minute. But he's got several in here. One of them is that we're being too anthropomorphic. We're also being arrogant and assuming that just because we haven't found it yet, we haven't ever found it. And that's sort of this evidence of, or absence of evidence doesn't mean evidence of absence, which I was never arguing, and I was accused of that also. Of course, just because you haven't seen something or evidence for something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I get that, and that's not what I was arguing. And also this idea of several different filters that we have to go through. And again, that's entirely possible. But the fact is, there are filters here. So what I want to get to is this idea of what all of the comments are lacking to understand is it doesn't matter how long we've been looking. It doesn't matter if it's only been 100 years. It doesn't matter if there's 1,000 different filters we've got to go through. The fact remains, and if that's the case, then we're really doomed, I think. But what really matters is that there is probably a filter out there because we simply haven't seen anything yet. So why do I keep going back to this? And why is it such a simple idea that that really is kind of the end of it? And that is that it's not too... Well, first of all, colonizing the galaxy is not really all that difficult. So we could probably do, and this was another comment that was left here also by some of you guys. It's really not. We're almost at a stage now where we could begin our own galaxy colonization. I mean, we actually already have started it with the Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 probes. They're very slow, but they are on their way out into interstellar space, and so we have begun to colonize the galaxy in our crude little way already. And we've only been around for roughly, the civilization's been around for 35,000 some odd years or something like that. And modern civilization, or what you would call recorded civilization, might have been closer to 6 or maybe 10,000 years, depending on what you want to call recorded civilization. So we've just started, and it's not that difficult by few. And one of the ideas that everybody throws out is this idea of a von Neumann probe. And this was something developed by John von Neumann back in the 1950s. He was a mathematician, and he said, look, you can build these probes. They don't have to be complicated. They don't even have to go very fast. They can go something like 10% of the speed of light. What you do is you send them out there. Just send out some and take them out to the stars. And they go at, say, 10% the speed of light. And if you run the math through and you do all the calculations, once these probes get to where they're going, they would presumably replicate, using the raw materials that they found there. And those materials would then be used to create more probes. They would go out and then colonize more, or go to more stars, at least visit them, and build more probes out of whatever raw materials they find there, and on and on and on. And that's called they're sort of they're self-reproducing autonomous robots. And that's one of the ideas that almost everybody uses as an example of a simple way to colonize the galaxy. And they use that because it's within our grasp to do now, within, say, the next few hundred years or so. So these probes would basically do real tasks. They would take samples, and they would build themselves and things like that. They would make copies of themselves, not too unlike a bacteria. And again, I'm sorry if that's simplifying biology a little bit, but they could make copies of themselves, and it really is the fastest and cheapest way to explore the galaxy. I mean, you just don't, this would take generations, or would take actually depending on the math and depending on where you start, you could have roughly 25% of the galaxy completely explored, or at least visited once by these probes within a few million years, and the entire galaxy within, say, a dozen years or so, and a dozen million years or so. So that's a drop in the bucket with the lifetime of our galaxy. And that's the point Fermi and all these other astronomers are getting at. The galaxy's been around 10 billion years. And it is possible with very reasonably not too complicated technology to get around the entire galaxy in a dozen million years. Now, do a Google on von Neumann probes, VONNEUMANN, and you'll come up with tons of articles on it. So you can find this out for yourself. It's not that difficult. So the entire galaxy could be colonized in a reasonably short period of time. So that brings us to these different types of civilizations. What are the different types? And there's this guy, this Russian astrophysicist, Nikolai Kardashev, and he sort of came up with a classification for advanced galaxies. And that's what one of the commenters was alluding to too. A type 1 civilization. He says there's type 1s, types 2s, and type 3s. A type 1 civilization is similar to ours. We use the energy resources of a planet. A type 2 civilization, the one that was discussed in the comment, the type 2 civilization would use the energy resources of a star, such as a Dyson sphere. Okay, so it's using the entire energy output of its host star. And a type 3 civilization would employ the energy resources of an entire galaxy. And a type 3 civilization would be pretty easy to detect, even at vast distances. Now, the fact that aliens don't seem to be walking around is a good, there just doesn't seem that is a good indicator that maybe there aren't very many aliens in our galaxy, or any at all. And while that may seem like it's a radical conclusion, well, we just haven't seen them, so therefore they don't exist. Really, there's some. Well, let me take a step back. There are some solutions to this. I mean, let's look at what if. There's some solutions to the Fermi paradox. This is what would happen if they, if we just assume that, just because we don't see them, there are reasons why we don't see them. And one of the solutions would be, well, they are here. They're out there. They're here, but they left evidence, so they're somewhere around here. A lot of people argue they've seen that. They're basically us. They're us. Humans are descendants of some alien civilization, but the problem with that is, where did the alien civilization come from if we're descendant from them? And finally, there's the one I was talking about before, the prime directive kind of zoo scenario. The aliens are here, and they're keeping us in a well-designed little zoo, and they're not allowed to communicate with us at all. The problem with that one is that if it's pretty easy for a civilization to screw that up. I mean, Captain Kirk did it all the time. He violated the prime directive almost every episode. So it's pretty easy to break an embargo like that. So there's problems with that one. So another solution to the Fermi paradox may be that they exist, but they have not yet communicated, and that is something a lot of you caught to with the comments, which means that, and the subtext of that is the signals haven't had time to reach us. Again, I go back to the fact that the galaxy's been around billions of years, and speed of light does slows down on how fast things can get, and of course relativity makes space travel a long time, and so yes, ET's message may not have reached us yet, but the thing is, again, the galaxy's been around for billions of years, and even one civilization, even if one civilization formed that formed maybe a few million years before us, the galaxy could still be filled with these probes. I mean, these von Neumann probes that we talked about. So all it takes is one, just one, and I just really want to impress on everyone just how long 10 billion years is. And so another subtext to this is they are signaling, but we don't know how to listen. That's the anthropomorphic thing, where we're only looking for signals we know how to do it. And the thing I would say to that is they may use those methods that we haven't learned yet, but they're still it's possible, I suppose, that's true, but there should still be some civilizations that are using electromagnetic radiation, and we should be able to detect it in some way. Another one is that there are berserkers out there. There are these berserker probes who are designed to look for signals like ours, and then they go and killing civilizations. That would be a filter, actually. These would be killer robots. But the problem with that is, well, where are the berserkers coming from and who built them? This is one you guys alluded to a lot. They have no desire to communicate. There's just simply no curiosity out there. But with the possibility of millions of civilizations, somebody has to be curious. At least one of them does, right? 10 billion years. And if there is no filter, there should be millions of civilizations. Are all of them not curious? All of them? All millions of them? And another one is that mathematics may be too difficult to develop. And we don't understand their system of math, and it's different from ours. But again, we should be able to get some kind of signal even if we don't understand it. And finally, catastrophes. And this is the one that I think is very interesting to think about. Civilizations only have a limited time. They're all dead. They've somehow not, they just could not get through the filter. That's what I was talking about. And there's things like overpopulation, nanobots, sort of that gray goo problem that everybody talks about, dangerous particle physics, when we when we push the boundaries of our particle accelerators, maybe things create that destroy civilizations. But these things have to be complete and thorough. They have to completely wipe out a civilization altogether, or they're not really a great filter. So that's what many people think would happen if we did find life on Mars, that a filter like that might still be ahead on us. So finally, the only conclusion is that they don't exist. We are the first life into this galaxy. And, evolution takes time, and we are the first ones. After 10 billion years, we're the first civilization to get there. Boy, that seems pretty unlikely too, doesn't it? But the sun is an average star, and if other stars formed millions of years ahead of us, then there would be a million years ahead of us in technology. So again, if it evolves here, it should evolve everywhere if there is no filter. So planets with the right conditions are rare. And we've already discovered with Kepler that's probably not true. There's plenty of Earth-like planets. We're already getting hints that they're similar to Earth and even have the possibility of water vapor and liquid water around them. So we probably are already on the cusp of discovering that's not such a big deal. And then finally, and this is what I'm beginning to wonder, is that life itself just might be rare. It just might be too hard for life to form. Period. And maybe that's why everybody else is not here. So I appreciated your comments last week. Most of you were saying sort of variants on those themes, and it still isn't good enough. Think about how long 10 billion years is. Think about how many stars 100 billion stars are. And I don't care what you come up with, whether we've only been looking since last Tuesday, whether we wouldn't understand the signals, there should be something that we should be able to detect, something definitive, something obvious, not something that we'd have to get at. Now, there have been many astronomers in the past who have basically said, well, just flat out, this is there just aren't any. And the most famous person to say that was Frank Tipler back in the 70s. He was very, very pessimistic. He was basically saying, look, there just aren't any. It's easy for probes to colonize the galaxy, so where the heck are they? That's what he would say. And he just said they don't exist. They're just not there. But that was not the prevailing view. Even Carl Sagan and a guy named William Newman, different spelling, Newman, came up with a different answer. Now, the link to these papers is in the description box. Okay, if you go to the asvabharvard.edu link, you'll see Carl Sagan's paper. So I'm taking it straight from there. And they were convinced, both Carl Sagan and William Newman were convinced that Tipler was wrong, that he had all of the talks of probes was sheer crap. He said that they calculated that von Neumann probes, should they exist, this is what they concluded in the paper, would eventually start to consume most of the mass in the galaxy. They concluded that intelligent civilizations would never dare construct such probes and would try to destroy any such device as soon as it was detected. So in their own way, Carl Sagan and William Newman were saying these were kind of their own sort of self-imposed filter from that, and then maybe why we didn't see it. But a lot of people, I myself, I don't find that all that convincing because, it's not hard to build probes that are with just even a little bit of intelligence to say, wait, okay, let's don't overdo it. And there's lots of ways you can program these things to not use every single available resource. You just wouldn't send them out there to use every single thing they come across. So I don't know that while it's probably true that they left unchecked, they would just consume everything in the galaxy. But I don't know. There's ways you can maybe prevent that. But maybe that's another way to say a gray goo problem, right? I mean, it's just technology run amok. It's technology you can't control. Either way, it's a filter, isn't it? So finally, I want to draw your attention to a paper that was written by a friend of mine, someone I worked at with the Dark Energy Survey. The link to it is in the description box, and the name of the paper is, I think it was called an answer to the. Oh shoot! I deleted the thing. It's in the ARXIV. It's called AstroPH. It's the link in the description box, and he has a reason for it's called, I forget the exact title, but something like gamma ray bursts, or the reason for the great silence. And he puts out that gamma ray bursts are the reason we don't have any intelligent life. And he puts out a really good argument. And I talked to him about it once, and he goes, you know what? I'm right. They're going to find out in the end of time that it's gamma ray bursts that are keeping civilizations from forming. So read that paper as well. So lots of people think about this, John Smith, not just me. And I'm hurt that you would think I would try and take all of these ideas as my own. That's just not what I'm doing. Okay, so let me go to the chat window now. So that's my little spiel. Wow. Okay, so you guys are really doing a lot of things. So the Cadra Hole is saying the one thing that is killing me before the universe. There had to be something. OMG, just think this thing just is killing me. There has to be something before the universe. He just can't seem to get his hands around it. George Caldwell says advancements in mathematics will provide the key to all our answers. That may be true. Galaxia is going, Tony, the assumption of this reasoning is wrong. We can't see them. We can't detect radio, IR, or any other spectrum of their spaceship probes. Why not? That doesn't make any sense. The assumption of this reasoning is not wrong. We should be able to. We can't detect radio? You don't mean that. Of course we can detect radio. Infrared telescopes, we can detect that too. We've built plenty of infrared. In fact, the James Webb Space Telescope is all infrared. So I don't understand that comment. We can see and detect the entire electromagnetic spectrum, all the way down from the lowest radio waves through microwaves, through infrared, visible light, ultraviolet, all the way up to the highest energy gamma rays. So we can detect these things. Even we have X-ray telescopes. We can even do that. Boljet Prevet is asking, hey, Tony, question. What are your thoughts on life based on different kinds of building blocks like ours? Thinking outside the box, of course. Presumably you mean things like carbon-based life. I don't know. Again, I'm not. If I start talking about stuff like that, I'm going to make all the biologists really mad at me. They really gave me a hard time when I tried to talk about prokaryotes and eukaryotes. So just that going from that step to another, I guess I butchered the biology of it. But the fact remains is that took a long time on Earth to go from prokaryotes to eukaryotes. Okay, is that a filter? Don't know. The Drake equation, George Caldwell, the Drake equation isn't looking too good. Maybe there's a flaw in relativity. I doubt there's a flaw in relativity, but the Drake equation, talk about assumptions. Okay, guys, you got mad at me for assumptions. So you just plug in whatever you want in there in those numbers and you come out with something big, right? So the answer is yes, there should be life out there. Again, though, why can't we detect it? I mean, why isn't it everywhere? And it's not because no one's had a chance yet. The only answer is we could be the first ones. I'll believe you when you say that. But then that still means we're it, right? And there may be people following along behind us, but we may be on the forefront. I'll give you that. That may be true, but there's certainly nobody ahead of us yet. There should be millions of at least there's been a chance for millions of of millions of civilizations. Next, Lapisi is commenting, there is a scenario that a god with a want made the world. No, I don't agree with that. Here is your galaxy speaking. Here's your galaxy speaking. There are other technological life as you know it in your galaxy. Chase P. Could also be the case that if there is life elsewhere, that they wiped themselves out or died off before they reached intergalactic travel. Yes, that would be a filter, wouldn't it? What did they face? What wiped them out? That's the question. If we find life on Mars, then that actually started on Mars. That means that the beginning of life on a planet is a relatively common occurrence. Why do I say that? Based on just two examples, because in one system, our solar system, on the planet Earth and on the planet Mars and maybe on Europa, there was life that independently arose on 2, maybe 3 different planets. Enceladus, if you want to include Enceladus. 4, 5, 6 different spots in our solar system alone. That speaks volumes to the commonality of life in the universe, but it doesn't say anything about the commonality of civilizations. And so that means something in the future must be faced by civilizations, because we're still here. It must be in our future. And so what is it? And I think it's worth spending money on. I think we should think more about, and Carl Sagan certainly did too. I remember him in the 90s. He was, in the 80s too, was terrified of nuclear war. That was when the Cold War was going on and we were fighting with Russia, and we each had tens of thousands of nuclear warheads. We could destroy each other, many times over. It terrified him, that thought. And he fought hard against, nuclear weapon proliferation. He was very much afraid that was it. That was a great filter. We were on the verge of it right there. And he was very much afraid of that. So lots of people need to think more about this. We need to look ahead. What are we doing to the planet? Is the global warming going to be a great filter? What are some danger signs? Near Earth asteroids? Maybe, but that wouldn't hit every civilization ever. Some would be lucky enough to escape those. Not everyone's going to get hit by that, but if we got hit, okay, fine. That would be one for us, but not for the whole galaxy. So again, give me a scenario in which I'm wrong. And that's what I want to hear. Some people say that humans evolved 200,000 years ago. Okay, well, when I was talking about civilization, not the evolution of human beings, Homo sapiens, Homo erectus, all that. I don't have those numbers on the top of my head, but I do know civilization. I kind of think of civilization as having started around Babylonia and going through ancient Greece. Greece was around for 6,000 years before Christ, so that was a big civilization. And then finally the 2,000 years since. So 10, or so thousand years is what I kind of think of as recorded civilization. I could be wrong. I'm no historian, but that's just what I think. Humans cannot grasp the immensity of the universe, and that is my point. Because if you can't even think about how long 10 billion years and what that really means, there's just plenty of time. We have not yet discovered all the details about this is from Astro. We have not yet discovered all the details about our own solar system. How can we be in a position to find out about life in our galaxy? Look, it should be coming to us, right? We don't, all we have to do is look up. I don't mean to, use my catchphrase there, but you just got to look up, and it should be pretty evident, right? Dyson spheres, something, right? Pretty easy to find. It shouldn't take a lot of effort, really. It should be pretty obvious. Christian Camacho. So, who would you say is filtering them away from sight? NASA? Government? Oh, God. I'm going to pretend that's a joke. No one is filtering them from sight. They either exist or they don't. I love the fact that people think NASA can actually hide planets. Yeah, Galaxia again. Yes, Tony, but we can't see them. Oh, I've already talked about that. Yes. Somebody's just typing in nonsense. People have been asking me for moderators for these chats, and I'm going to get one. I will. But thank you for putting up with it. So let's see. Maybe life is terrible at setting long-term projects into place so they don't bother. Once they pass the radio transmissions era, they effectively disappear. Well, that would be, again, this sort of lack of caring kind of attitude. And I suppose that could happen, where you just reach a certain point and you go, meh. you know what, this is good enough. But I don't think that's totally true. Metric Imperialist is saying maybe the probes have already come and gone. Every planet in the solar system already has been cataloged, with nothing left, with no evidence that they existed at all. If Carl Sagan's right, these probes would be pretty obvious, right? I mean, if he's right, then he thought they would consume the galaxy, so nobody would build them. But let's say a more moderate attitude would be they would leave a mark. So are you saying that they just did it and were completely stealth about it? Okay, I suppose, but again, they're gonna have to. We see no evidence of them in the sky at all, which means they're stealth probes, and they came and they got the resources in a stealthy way. Maybe not even from this planet, from another planet. Okay, I'm not gonna argue with that too much. That's not a terrible idea. Big Mac 575. Is there a limit on the distance that radio waves can no longer be detected, or is it based solely on the power of the source? It's based a lot on the power of the source, but depending on what it hits, a lot of dust, a lot of things in the galaxy plane that can absorb radio transmissions, but it's so there's a lot. So there is a limit, but again, we're talking about a civilization that colonizes a pretty good percentage of the galaxy. So you should be able to see them from different directions, not just from one. So one area that might be obscured would be open in another. George Caldwell, will the answers come in our lifetime from JWST? Sadly, I don't think so, because that's not what they're going to be using JWST for. JWST is an infrared telescope. It's the successor to Hubble. It's being launched in October of 2018. It's going to be sent to the L2 point, and it's going to be looking at the very first stars and galaxies in our universe. It's also going to be able to directly image exoplanets as well as measure the contents of their atmospheres using spectroscopy. So it's going to be an amazing telescope. And it might see something. I mean, if it looked at a certain system or galaxy cluster that happened to be transmitting broadly, it might see something from that. So it's possible. But again, I'm of the opinion, as of a lot of astronomers, that, you know what, we're not going to see anything, guys. We're not going to find anything if we haven't already. Do you think that, this is from Paranor001, Tony, do you think the data coming in from the Voyagers may give reason of silence coming in, and perhaps a reason why nobody has heard and responded yet? Maybe. The Voyagers, the thing about the Voyager data, of the Voyagers, is they're out in the middle of nowhere, and they're going to be out there for a very long time, for at least a few 100,000 more years. They just unplug, or they just... And okay, so I just blew my audio recording right there. I forgot what I was saying now. Ken Lee, you're just not looking hard enough, Tony. Fair enough. Okay, but again, I just don't buy that. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead. We've been at this for 45 minutes, folks, and I got most of my points out. This has been a lot of fun. I hope you guys have gotten something out of it. I know I have. I love the picture behind you, Tony. Thank you. That is a picture of it's an artist concept of the brightest supernova. It's not it's a brightest eruption. I did this in SFN 150, I believe. I covered this story, and that's an artist's conception. That is a supernova right above my head there, or at least it's a bright eruption, and it's the brightest eruption ever seen, ever. And this lends me back to my point about, see, if we can see things like this, why the hell can't we detect other eruptions? But that is an artist rendering of that eruption. It's a supernova that is, I think it was like 250 trillion times more powerful than a standard supernova. So that's what that's an image of. So thank you for that. All right, folks, I'm going to stop here. I want to thank you all for watching. I'm going to be doing Spaceman News again this week. There's a Hubble Hangout this Thursday at 3 o'clock Eastern Time on Hubble Site Channel. I hope you'll watch that. We're going to be talking JWST, actually, talking to some of the people who've gotten the primary mirrors already built and put up. So we're going to be talking to scientists at Goddard about that. Also on Friday, I think I've got my first Footsteps on Mars hangout coming up, but I don't know for sure. I'm waiting on word from Alberto and Harley on that. So lots of things coming up. Don't forget the app coming up. Also, we'll take a look at the podcasts and follow me on Twitter. Also, Oh, I wanted to mention Periscope. Every Thursday before the Hubble Hangout, I'm going to be doing a Periscope chat, so you can ask me anything you want about Hubble. That'll be at 2 o'clock Eastern Time on @DeepAstronomy on Twitter. So follow me on Twitter if you want to see a Periscope live question and answer before the Hangout. I'll answer all of your questions about Hubble and science about Hubble. So that'll be at 2 o'clock Eastern on Thursday. So I hope you guys will do that then. And again, you have to do it on Deep Astronomy because I don't have access to the Hubble Telescope Twitter feed anymore. So follow me on Deep Astronomy. All right, folks, this has been a great discussion. My next Deep Astronomy Live Hangout will be on how I overcame my math blocks. That should be in 2 weeks on Monday, same time, unless I go through these chats and I see a better time. Tweet to me or leave a comment on this video about what you would like to see if there's a better time I can hold these. This seems to be the best. 3 p.m. Eastern is 8 o'clock in the UK, and it's like noon on the the west coast of the United States. So it seems to be about the best time. But if you guys want a different time, let me know and I'll try to schedule it. So I hope you guys find these interesting, and I will do it again. I'll see you in 2 weeks, Galaxia. And I will talk about something a little bit less difficult. I'm going to tell you the story of how I overcame my math blocks. So I'll see you guys then. Let me go find my my control room. There it is. Okay. All right, folks. Thank you, space fans. Thank you all for watching. And as always, keep looking up.